Hey everyone! Welcome to Currently Screaming with Ashlyn, a podcast where fangirl energy meets pop culture chaos. So today we have a very special guest with us who is Jason Shumway.
Hello.
So what do you do in the entertainment industry?
Well, I do a little bit of everything, but primarily I've been in post-production for most of my career. That was my bread and butter. When I was at school, I kind of looked at all the different options, thought for a while I was going to be a camera operator or a cinematographer, but then fell in love with post-production. And a lot of it was the technology of post. Avid was kind of just starting to become a thing. Well, when I was coming there, we were moving from editing on, either actual film or, tape-to-tape type editors to digital editors. And I was fascinated with it. I also love that part of building the story that, you take all the elements and put them together. And that's where you actually craft your final story.
Yeah.
And so that was always very appealing to me. So I kind of went down that road, and that's how I started making my money. But of course, through this whole time, I would branch out into producing, or I'd branch out into directing, or, like everybody else, writing as often as I can.
Right.
And kind of trying to find my niche. But one of my favorite filmmakers is Danny Boyle, and I love the fact that he doesn't stick to a single genre. So I figured, why do I have to stick to a single part of filmmaking? I can kind of do a little whatever it is I want to do at the time. So
yeah, no, I feel like it's almost necessary actually in the entertainment industry to be a jack of many trades, or else
especially nowadays.
Yeah, or else you're not gonna make it. At least that's what I'm studying journalism right now, and that's what every single one of my teachers says. They're all like, you need to be able to do everything. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I think when I started out, you could be a little more specialized.
Yeah.
I got out here in 99 and was looking to, figure out what I wanted to do as I was going to film school, but everybody was, specialized. You're going to be an editor, you're going to be a director, you're going to be a DP, you're going to be a producer, you're going to be whatever, production design, whatever it is. As the industry is now changing quite radically, I think we're finding that, with content creators and stuff, you kind of have to do all of it yourself. You got to be kind of a one-man band. And the people who are surviving right now in that, I think that's one of their biggest attributes.
Right.
It's hard to be specialized anymore.
Yeah, for sure. So what was your, what first made you want to get into, movie production?
Star Wars.
Oh, really?
Amazingly enough, when I was a kid, I had a VHS tape of Star Wars, and I would say it had probably aired on TV. Was it maybe 81? Because it came out in 75. So it had been on TV, and I remember it so clearly because they had all the commercial breaks on it, and my dad was also a bit of a tech nerd, so he bought a VHS recorder, and we were able to record it. But between the bumpers on each of the commercial breaks was all of these people going, I've seen Star Wars 1,285 times. I've seen Star Wars. And then they had this one big group of people. It's like, all together, we've seen Star Wars 10,980 something times. It was really kind of fun. But they also had a lot of behind the scenes of Star Wars. So it was all, of Lucas shooting and working with the actors, and, the faster, more intense, that's so famous with him, and all that was kind of there, and getting to see how those visual effects were made, how ILM did their things, and when they were starting out and creating the trench runs, or the whatever effect that he needed, how the spaceships flew, all that. I was fascinated with it. And it was always kind of in the back of my mind that it was something I wanted to do, but it wasn't until I started volunteering at the Children's Museum of Indianapolis. They had a gallery called the Center for Exploration, and one of the big things that was there was a video editing bay that was donated by David Letterman.
Oh, cool.
And so I got my chance to kind of start playing in there. And most of the stuff I did in there was just waste of time. We had an AV switcher, and you could put boxes and lines over your video. It was, nothing creative.
Yeah, it's still fun though.
But it kind of introduced me to that. But the gentleman who ran that bay was a guy named Richard, and he started introducing me to actually doing stuff. He was working on projects and showing me what he was doing and how he was actually editing. And so that made a huge impression of something that, maybe this is something I want to do. Flash forward into high school, I get into J. Everett Light Career Center. It's a a vocational school that was my school was associated with.
Oh, cool.
So I did my core classes in the morning, and then I'd drive over to J. Everett Light, and I did radio TV for 3 hours every day.
Oh, no way. Oh, that's fun.
In high school, you don't get 3-hour classes. That's a college thing. But
Yeah.
here, man, it was great. And for me, it was the first time I'd ever really seen success in school. I at the time, I was recently diagnosed with ADHD. At the time, ADHD, nobody knew what it was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, this was this big mystery, you know,
Right.
and this would have been 93, 92, 93, somewhere around in there. So it was still kind of a, you know, like, what is this thing? How are kids affected by it? And, you know, all those older kids, you know, we were getting there. But once I was diagnosed and got on some medication and everything, that started to kind of change my entire life. My grades started kind of going up. But then
that's great.
having never had really seen success, you know, in school, you know, it was not a very good experience for me. My radio TV was very different. Suddenly I'm the one who everybody wanted to be on my team. For that, you know, it was really fun, you know, kind of fun to suddenly have a glimpse of popularity. And but I had a radio show that I did. You know, I had, you know, we'd do music videos and stuff, and you know,
rad.
very quickly I got access to the higher editing bays, which you normally wouldn't get. And one night after helping shoot a fashion show that the high schools put it on, we had a 6-camera setup. It was really cool. My instructor took us all out to dinner. We had some pizza, and he took this picture. He goes, I got to get a picture of this because I did this, you know, 5-6 years ago, and everyone in that picture now works in the industry.
Oh.
And so a lot of them were still local, and this was all in Indiana. So a lot of them were, you know, local news and doing stuff there, worked for production companies that, you know, would do like, you know, wedding videos and stuff like that. Matter of fact, my instructor, John King, did own a wedding video company, and I actually worked for him for a little bit in high school.
Oh, cool.
And, but he took that picture and he goes, I think that I've got the same thing here. And I somewhat kept up with a few of those people. Some of them were working for the local news, and one of them started his own production company.
Oh, nice.
I ran to Hollywood, and I did get to go back one day in their class about 10 years after I graduated, and spoke to their class about what it's to be an editor in Hollywood.
That's so cool.
It was kind of neat. It was a lot of indication for a lot of troubles and, you know, things that I had in high school.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, so, you know, now I'm out here and, you know, still like everybody struggling to kind of make ends meet and find my place in this new world. But it's still very much a passion, you know, very much something that I love doing.
Yeah, it seems like you kind of knew from a young age what direction you wanted to go, and that's so special. I love it when people who know what they want to do like stick with that and like follow their passion, you know. I feel like if you get a job that you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna, you know, screw my passion, I'm just gonna get this job because
chase money.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, come on. Like, follow your passion, guys. Because that's how.
I'm sorry. I think one of the greatest things of ADHD is impulsivity, and it can be it's definitely a double-edged blade there, because you know, it can hurt you as bad as it can help you. But sometimes that impulsivity, you say, hey, I want to do that, and I'm going to go for it. And you don't really give it as much consideration as some other people do.
Yeah, I have that same.
Yeah.
I have the impulsivity trait.
Well, in filmmaking,
so.
That's one of the greatest traits you can have, I think.
Really?
Is to look at something and just go, you know what, I'm going to try it. I'm going to do this. What the hell?
That's how I
and not think it through too much.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I say that, you know, not to say don't plan what you're going to do.
No, of course.
Filmmaking is still an immense amount of planning. But that desire to just go, you know what, I don't care what anybody says, I'm going to give it a try, see if it works. And, you know, I've been lucky enough, some projects that I've been a part of where we just said, you know what, let's just try it, see what happens. Let's just jump in, both feet, you know, we'll see if that's fire or water later, you know, and see how it goes. And, you know, that's made my career have some very fun turns and stuff like that. And it also allows me to adapt to like times like now when the industry is so suppressed and in such chaotic state that we've all had to make these crazy pivots to whatever we're going to do. My pivot is I became an EMT.
Right.
So in this time when everything's tough right now, while I'm still trying to keep my filmmaking alive, get back into editing, get back. And matter of fact, I'm planning another short film right now, and kind of do all that. You know, in the meantime, I'm getting these other life experiences that, as a filmmaker, it's, seeing the human condition, seeing people on some of their worst days, and seeing how they react and stuff. It really does give you more insight into what humanity really is.
Yeah.
It's also a neat job. It's got some neat skills to it. And you get to drive an ambulance and go wee-woo.
Oh, yeah, you get to turn on. I've been in an ambulance once, and I remember I was actually scared for them to turn on the siren because I'm like, sirens are so loud. It's going to be so loud. It's actually pretty quiet.
It's loud on the inside.
And the inside, it's pretty quiet. Yeah, so it's actually a pretty pleasant. It's kind of weird, though, because you're riding backwards.
Yep.
Like the patient's riding backwards, and you're just kind of like, we're going backwards. Is this normal? Are we going to now? We trust you, EMT drivers. Do you guys have to have like a special license?
Yeah, you have to have a commercial ambulance driver's license. And in fact, the amount of licensing you have to get, you got to get registered with the state. You got to get your national registry. You have to take a class. The EMT class is like 3-4 months if you do one of the accelerated ones like I did and stuff like that. So by the time you're done, you've got so much paperwork. You actually carry a book around with you of all these different papers. I've got LA City requires a permit. Orange County requires a separate permit. And so it's like I got 4 or 5 different, little permits that I have to carry with me every day. But like I said, if you're going to pivot out of something like filmmaking, it was interesting to find something different. And I think right now you've got so many people pivoting to real estate or moving out of state and just kind of trying to figure out how we're going to survive this streaming/AI paradigm shift within the industry.
Yeah, don't even get me started with AI. It's like all I hear about. I'm like,
it has its great parts as tools. Rotoscoping is so much more fun to do with AI than it ever was to do by hand. Mm-hmm. But it does worry me because people will put things out and be like, "Look, this is all AI. It's so amazing," and I just look at it going, "That looks so bad."
Yeah. Oh, it's AI art is the worst.
Yeah.
I'm just AI art. I hate AI art. I'm like, art is supposed to be from the human perspective because it's supposed to be a creative, outlet for people. It's not supposed to be done by a robot.
I think you can use AI to make your art and find ways to integrate it within your workflow. But I think when you just tell it, hey, make this, and it does the work, you're not really making art. You're not even really directing at that point. You're just, you're having a computer kind of homogenize it into something that's like, I don't know, it doesn't feel right yet. Yeah. And that's not to say that in 10 years, that's not going to change. That's not going to actually catch up. And I think that's the biggest worry we have in this industry right now is that it is going to catch up. It is going to start being as good as, some of the, lesser of us, like once it gets in there and in the mix and it starts actually giving us competition, then I think that's going to suck. But, when you look at commercials and stuff that, people don't really care if it's art or anything, they're using AI actors and stuff like that. And it's always, at least for me, I can always tell. I can always look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's AI.
Yeah.
Especially the voices. There's a certain digital tinge to it that you can kind of hear and it's AI.
Yeah.
But when I think back to, late 80s, early 90s, when I was hearing computers make their voices for the first time, and, it was very, very computery, very, there was no doubts that was not a human voice or anything, compared to now when I've needed voiceover for some little project that, I was running and just went online and typed in what I wanted, and the voiceover read it, and I was like, good enough.
Good enough. Yeah, sounds like a person.
It wasn't something for a real project. It was just, screwing around or something, or if I wanted to make some little joke project. But that changes everything. Think of how many voice actors are now not getting those little, bread and butter jobs that, voicing some stupid local commercial. It's just not a thing anymore,
Right.
But
yeah. So let's dive into Bloomington. Also, we haven't mentioned this yet, but this is my first guest that has started my cold call journey of guests. He is my first cold call guest. I will not be saying from where I found his phone number because it's a discussion for another day. But so Bloomington, I first watched it not that long ago, a couple years ago. Or a year ago, it doesn't matter. When I realized that, I was queer or bisexual, that I now label myself. And, it was one of those movies that I was so not expecting to find. Like, I just did not think that something like that existed. So you were the producer for the movie. And so, yeah. So how did you get that role originally?
Well, so the director, Fernanda Cardoso, she was a friend of mine from college. We both went to USC together. Matter of fact, she was the editor on my 480, which is the advanced undergrad film. In USC, you do 290s, 310s, and 480s, right? So beginning, intermediate, and advanced film. But your crew on the 480, if you want to direct, you got to go in and pitch the idea. So she was my editor, and then she got her 480 after that. She pitched and got hers. And I actually worked on hers after I had one more year of school at that point. So, but we'd been friends for a while and everything. And she had started putting this project together. And this was right around the time I had been finishing up another film called Enigma that was starting to get some traction. And so she had a producer that kept telling her that, like, nope, you can't do this, can't do that. You're going to have to shoot on DV. So we originally were shooting back in 2009. So this was still kind of early into the whole HD revolution and everything of what digital video and what digital cinema was going to become. So she was saying, you can't afford that. You're going to shoot in LA. She wanted to fake LA for East Coast, and it was just getting, super expensive. Film in LA charges so much for their permits. It's still $1,000 just to get a permit. Oh, wow. And all this stuff and the locations and everything. And she didn't have a lot of places that she had friends that owned or whatever. So everything was being rented. And so she had called me up and said, hey, would you take a look at this and tell me what you think you can do? And so we went through it, and I realized that, like, I have a lot of resources back in Indiana at the time.
Right.
Between properties my parents owned and friends owned and stuff like that. And I thought, if we move this whole film back there, what would it cost me to fly everybody back, rent them all long-term housing, if we were going to be there for a month, and get all these things, because in Indiana there were no permit fees. Anybody whose property would let me shoot, we were a lot of friends and family, so they were happy to let me shoot for free, just as long as we paid for cleaners to come in afterwards and do a deep clean, which was very, very necessary for whenever if you've ever seen a film shoot come in. It's a small army that just trashes the place. But when I got the budgets done, not only were we not going to shoot on DV, which was killing me that was even being suggested, we were able to rent the Red cameras, which were a big deal at then. The Red 1, I think is what it was called. Anyway, so we decided to move the whole thing back to Indiana. And
I didn't know that was because of you. That's cool.
It was mostly because of all my friends and family back there that were super supportive of me and my career. So that I was able to use my parents' house for one of the locations. Catherine's house, I believe, was that was my parents' house.
Really? That's so funny.
We had a lake house that we shot at. Where the
Jackie's parents' house.
I'm trying to remember whose house it was. To be honest, I haven't watched the film myself in a few years, so trying to remember all this. But yeah, I think that might have been Jackie's house. Some of the interior hallways of the school, like when she goes to meet with her counselor or whatever that guy was. That's my dad's company's. He has a company that he owned, and I asked if we could shoot there, so we shot there on the weekends when nobody was there.
Oh, no way!
This is an industrial finishing company, and I'm turning it into a college.
Yeah.
This scene where she slaps that girl, and it's a big deal. That's the conference room in that same building.
Oh, no way!
So we really utilized a lot of. Matter of fact, the back area of that building is a sheet metal factory. We turned it in where we shot the scenes that were where they were screen testing the spaceship and everything. That was all inside of sheet metal factory.
Oh, weird.
That soundstage.
Yeah.
Because it had a soundstage feel and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ironically, that's the one scene that I'm actually in that movie.
Yeah, I did.
I'm the director in that movie.
When I was looking over the credits, I did see that, and I was like trying to remember. I was like, wait. who? And then I remember and I was like, yeah, hey, you got a small acting gig. There you go.
It was funny because we were trying to find somebody for that role, and Brittany comes up to me. She goes, "You're going to do that role," and I'm like, "I'm not an actor." She's like, "No, you're fine. You're going to do that role. I want you to be that role. You're a director. Be a director." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Sure, why not?" You know,
that's true.
That it was kind of fun. So I don't know. I always watch it, and I'm like, I'm so awful. I'm not a good actor, but she liked it and she thought it was fun. You know, she had a bunch of us in there. There's little bits of cameos from a lot of the crew throughout it. You know,
oh, it's fun.
But so you know, it was kind of one of those bringing those resources that I had and being able to bring budgets down. And really, from the producing standpoint, it was what could we get and how much more of a film could we get if we went to Indiana. And even despite all of the moving costs and the living costs and the food costs and everything that was going to be involved there, it was still substantially cheaper. Mm-hmm. That's part of what I think is the problem with LA right now, is that the cost to shoot here, it is so much cheaper to shoot elsewhere. And we really want to keep production and everybody here, but we got to find ways to make it a little cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean, California's an expensive town, and it's like, you know, some of the catering companies we used in Indiana, I wouldn't have been able to feed one meal out here, much less the entire day's worth of meals or a couple of days worth of meals for some of them. You know, it's like, it was kind of crazy. But because of that, we got a lot more film, and that allowed us to, you know, open up some of the creativity and figure out really kind of what we wanted and need for the story.
Right.
There were other challenges that came up though that were kind of not initially in our radar.
Right. So if for the people that don't know, basically the story is centered around a college student named Jackie who was a child actress, and she gets into a relationship with a female professor. So there's two themes there that, you know, are touchy. One of them is it's a queer relationship, and the second one's it's a student-teacher relationship. So what were the problems with that?
So initially when we got into it, my thought was, you know, we're going back to Midwest. Mm-hmm. Midwest isn't quite as understanding as LA when it comes to queer relationships and stuff like that. And so I was pretty sure that was going to be a tough sell for a lot of it. And I'm not going to say it didn't. There were definitely people who brought up that, and I'll tell some of those stories here in a second. But the student-teacher relationship actually was the bigger hurdle a lot of people had. They really didn't. They had some issue with we were going to tell a story that involved that kind of relationship. So it was interesting between the two. It did take some finessing and talking to people about, you know, what the story was about. And some people wanted to read the script, and some didn't, you know, which I thought was kind of interesting. One of the first interactions we had was this park. We were just going to be outside. It was going to be where the student faculty mixer was going to take place. Mm-hmm. And I called up this park and, you know, told them, hey, you know, we're shooting this. And it's like, well, can you tell me what the story's about? Mm. Okay, you know, let's just get it out in there. Open. It's a lesbian drama. And they, wait, it's a what? It's a lesbian drama. So you're shooting porn?
Oh my gosh.
No, it's not porn.
It's a sapphic relationship.
And so that conversation lasted about as long as I just told. Oh. You know, it's like he couldn't get past the fact that if it's got lesbians, it must be porn.
Interesting.
And so we ended up not being able to obviously shoot at that park. With Indiana, you don't need permits. All you need is permission. So that wasn't something we were going to get from this gentleman, and he's very close-minded about what he thought this thing was. And didn't really want to hear more. And so, okay. And that's kind of what I expected. In the end, though, a lot of the people we talked to, that wasn't an issue at all. There was, amazingly for me, you know, Indiana is much more, has a very good support structure for the LGBTQ community, even back in 2009, which was kind of nice. Matter of fact, the movie got its name Bloomington. Mm-hmm. Because the college we wanted to go to was going to be IU. Mm-hmm. IU did have some trepidation about being involved with the project. We tried to get on campus and stuff, and they were like, "Look, it's not that we have any issues. It's just that we don't necessarily." They were more about the student-teacher relationship thing.
Did these people not realize that it was like a college student teacher really like it's
Yeah.
not like obviously obviously if it's under 18 like that's illegal.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's something
Yeah.
different. But it's Jackie.
Yeah.
How old was Jackie supposed to be?
Right. She was. I think she's supposed to be a freshman or a sophomore in college.
Yeah, it's,
Maybe a little older than that.
I think she might have been
a little
like
older
20
than that.
something.
Yeah, I think she was a little older than that because of her TV career. She
Right.
didn't get to start her college as early as she wanted, but it was still supposed to be a significant enough age difference that when
Right.
they looked at it, that's what they stuck on. Bloomington, as a town was when I was there, because I actually went to IU for about a year and a half. Is a very LGBTQ supportive town. I mean, they had a lot of stuff that was going on. I remember one of the first Pride parties. They didn't really do parades there. It was more like a big pride party.
Cool.
It took place over on was it Kirkwood? I think was the name of the street. It's been a few years since I've been there. But Bloomington itself, it was there. But they, like I said, they had issue with that. They didn't really want IU to be represented itself with that. That being said, we did shoot around Bloomington in the town itself for some of the scenes but we ended up moving a lot of it away from there. But but Fernanda really liked what Bloomington was and what it stood for and what its support for the queer community was.
Yeah.
And so she ended up changing the name from, I think it was originally called East of Neptune.
Okay.
Because her show was Neptune, and all this stuff, to turn into Bloomington.
That's
and
cool.
so that got renamed about, I want to say it was a couple of weeks into shooting that we renamed the show. But yeah, so, IU kind of basically said, we're not so sure. And then IUPUI, which is a subcampus of IU, Indiana University, Purdue University at Indianapolis. We went to them for the dorms and said, hey, can we shoot here? And they're basically like, okay, no signage, but yeah, go for it. So we actually, all the college dorm stuff is in an actual college dorm at IU or at IUPUI.
Yeah.
So that was, kind of fun to keep all that involved.
Right.
But yeah, once we got back there, we realized that, we had access to so many properties and so much everything. So that's kind of how we ended up structuring it all.
Yeah.
And then the airport scenes and stuff down there, we had access to an airport that was willing to let us shoot, which out here, shooting in airports is a pain in the butt. Back there, they were all like thrilled to have us, Well,
yeah, tell the airplane story. Tell the airplane story.
So in the original script, it was that Catherine, they had a fear of flying, and she was, and Jackie was going to take her to a flight simulator, and she was going to be afraid of it, and then kind of get her over her flying. And I remember I said to Fernanda, I said, nobody's ever going to be afraid of a flight simulator. I mean, it's just a computer screen. I mean, none of them are that good that it's going to be believable. She's like, well, what do you suggest? And I said, let's go in a real airplane. Let's actually go fly a plane. Why not? And so she's like, so that's going to cost a bunch. And I said, not really. I'm a pilot. And so it's like, how about we do this? It's like, we're not going to actually shoot in the plane. We'll I'll go out and I'll go fly around, and you guys happen to have a camera at the airport and get some shots of me flying. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to, you're not going to be able to direct me or do anything. I'm just going to go fly, which is something, I got my pilot's license back in 2004, and I'm instrument rated and all sorts of stuff. And so I was like, yeah, this will be fun. So when we did it, the airport was happy to let our cameras get out onto the field and get much closer to the runway than
cool.
you would normally be allowed. And that's how we got some of those great shots of the planes taking off, the planes starting up, and all that neat stuff.
Yeah.
But so she rewrote the whole scene to take place in a real airplane. So we got the hangar, we got the airplane in there. And so when they're doing that whole scene, besides all of the flirtiness of it and the sexual tension and everything that was in that scene, I think it really upped the value of the scene. I don't think a flight sim would have ever come across the same way.
Yeah,
But the real airplane, it really made for a really neat little pin in that.
Yeah, for sure. So Jackie, the student, and Catherine, the teacher, they had different goals relationship wise. How did you and the rest of the team, especially Fernanda, since she was the writer, make sure that relationship stayed realistic? Like, because clearly that was a goal to keep it realistic.
Yeah.
How did you make sure that it would stay realistic? And what was like the thought process behind that?
That I got to attribute almost all of credit for that to Fernanda.
Yeah.
She was absolutely meticulous about how she went about putting her story together. And I do think some of it was pulled from her own life and friends. I'm, what Fernanda was going through at the time, what she was trying to decide with her life. I think this film was a little bit of an exploration of that. But she is such a brilliant storyteller, and she really, would agonize over these details of like, is this working, is not? And we had many a discussion, especially about how the film should end, and what kind of reaction we should get, whether they should end up together or whether that this was more of a tragic kind of relationship, which is obviously the way we ended up going with it, is that, it was a growing moment for both of them, but not something that was going to continue.
Right.
For me at the time, I felt like that was kind of, this relationship was such a taboo thing at the time, this student-teacher thing, that you can't really have it work out entirely.
Yeah.
There was an age gap. There was just a point of life gap that I think would have made it too unrealistic to actually have them like, oh no, and everything's fine and rosy at the end,
Right.
But I also think it gives a lot for that story to kind of continue in people's brains of where did it go afterwards.
Do you think there's a chance of a second film, a continuation film?
Honestly, that's really would be up to Fernanda, whether she wanted to
I'm call
write
her
another one. I think. I honestly, I don't think there's a chance, but you never know that I'm not sure where Fernanda is with it
Right.
on there. She's, unfortunately, we haven't talked for a few years, we kind of different life paths and everything. Right. But if she wanted to do another one, I'm thinking sounds like there's a decent amount of people out there that would love to see it.
No, there is. Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially it's really probably literally just my generation. It's probably like there's probably like a 3-year age gap, probably from like 16 to my age 19, where girls have been rediscovering this film on TikTok. And after this, I'm gonna have to show you the edits that people make of Catherine. It's so good. People make the best thirst traps of that movie. It's crazy.
Nice.
There's some people that have accounts specifically just for Bloomington, actually, like editing accounts that are just like
wow,
just for Bloomington.
See, that's always really kind of neat to hear that, it's like something that I was a part of putting out into the world has had such a profound effect on people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think as a filmmaker, that's really all we ever want, is that we want to tell a story that people can connect to and that find something that drives in their life. I know the number of films I've watched that have made me change the way I think about things, or that have affected me personally. That's what I love about filmmaking.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. There's many films, and unfortunately, kind of come up with a specific example right now is eluding me. But like the idea that letting little things be little. I many times in my life, I say there are many things in the world to get mad about, and this ain't one of them. Mm-hmm. And, I joke that that's like the dude's attitude from, oh man, I just spaced on the name of the show.
What show?
Jeff Bridges played the dude in, I'm completely spacing on the title of this. It's a great film, and somebody out there is screaming at the screen right now, going, "It's this!"
It's this.
But yeah, I mean, when film can affect you like that, I mean, I think that's the whole reason we got into this. We tell stories because we want people to have cathartic experiences, or to have things that just help shape how they think about the world. Right. And maybe get a different perspective of somebody else's life. I mean, Bloomington for me was definitely a perspective into a different life. I've basically been married since I was 16. Oh. My wife and I got together in high school. We were high school sweethearts. Mm-hmm. We've been together for forever and a day. I don't have a lot of personal, stake in the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, straight man working on it.
I'm a straight white guy. I mean, I'm like the bane of everybody else's existence, So, to use the colloquial terms, I do consider myself an ally, and I have lots, in this industry, if you don't have lots of LGBTQ friends, then you're not really in this industry. So I'm very supportive of it, but I hadn't really been involved in a way like what Bloomington kind of brought me into. And then, again, was a neat experience for me. It taught me a lot about what this community was, and talking with people, and some of the people we had on the cast and crew that were also were part of that community. And since then, I have even more friends now that have shared with me their experiences and stuff. And I think it's nice to see like Bloomington is still connecting with people in that sense. So
it is. That's the cool thing about streaming services.
Yeah.
Everything can just live on, can just keep living.
Yeah.
So I'm actually kind of curious. I'm gonna kind of switch directions a little bit. I'm kind of curious on the work that you did for a long time on E-News International.
So E-News International was we would basically take the E-News that was going on, and we would repurpose it for international audiences. Okay. So my specific shows were German and Polish, occasionally did Italian, stuff like that. So it was a relatively easy job because if you watched E-News and what we did there, it wasn't particularly creative. It was just kind of repurposing. But at the time, I had just come off of True Hollywood Story. I'd been on that I think I've been on that show for 9 years, something like that. I did something like 300 episodes. It was ridiculous. So when that show was starting to come to an end, and this was kind of my okay, I need a job. Let's get over there and do that. But it still kind of opened up, some fun stuff. I still got to, I got a little more involved in the news side of E. Got to meet a lot of people. I got to meet a lot of celebrities through that when they were doing interviews during the day or something, I'd come in. And I remember one day I was coming in for E-News, and as I walk in, I get off the elevator, and this guy in a suit and kind of stops me right at the elevator. I'm like, okay, this never happened before, and I've been working here for over a decade.
Yeah.
Noticed that he's got a little U.S. flag on his lapel, and I was like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, we just need to pat you down real quick. I'm like, okay, for what? He's like, there's a VIP here. I'm like, who? They're like, come on, you know who. And it's like
I know.
to kind of think about it, realize they're Secret Service.
Oh.
And Michelle Obama was in the building giving an interview. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
I didn't get to meet her. I wish I had. That would have been very cool.
I actually just saw, I didn't meet her, but I just saw Kamala Harris 2 days ago in show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Similar. I don't know. They're I feel like around both of they're two powerful women in politics right now, so they remind me of each other.
She was there giving an interview, and it was kind of neat to see Secret Service doing their thing. But I called everybody who was coming in, because I tend to get to work early, and so I called everybody coming in. I said, "Hey guys, just be aware, you're going to get patted down by Secret Service on the way in
because Michelle Obama's here." Yeah,
it was kind of neat. With the True Hollywood Story, I did get to meet, other celebrities, Sharon Osbourne, and we did shows. Most of the people, if I didn't get to meet them, I got to see their interviews, see behind the scenes of what they're like before the cameras start rolling, because our cameras always started rolling, 10 minutes before the interview started. And I'm wondering if somebody didn't tell a lot of these people, because sometimes they would switch over from good, from the pain in the butt to I'm so nice and good. Yeah. I'm not going to name names, out there, but I do remember watching the interviews of, and I will name him, Jared Harris, and that man is the coolest guy. He was so nice to everybody before the interviews and everything, and I was thinking, I want to meet this guy sometime, and I haven't gotten a chance yet. But he's one of those actors that if I could work with somebody sometime, I would love to work with Jared Harris. I think he's such a neat actor, and he was what was it? The Russian movie he just did, a series he did on HBO about the nuclear reactor that melted down.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I'm horrible with title names.
But for today, I'm just dropping names like crazy. Like none of them are coming to mind. I'll scream it out. I do that. Well, I'll just scream it out suddenly when I remember it a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you haven't seen him in that, he was amazing in that. But yeah, it's getting to see kind of what celebrities are like working for that, and through E! News, gotten to see a lot of that, and occasionally we cut a few packages here and there for whatever, and we did them specifically for the French market or for that, which was kind of neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, did that for a few years, and then after that, they decided they didn't need E! News International anymore and cut that. And this was right around the time that I think Comcast was being bought by, or NBC Universal was being bought by Comcast, and so then everything started to slowly combine into what is now the big NBC Universal.
Right.
So restructuring and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's when my show ended, I moved on, and next thing I knew, I was working on Catfish. It was a whole nother experience,
Yeah, no, I bet. Before we get into our last segment, I have a little gift for you that is always so funny to give away. Here you go.
Oh my gosh.
Open it.
Open. Oh, that's awesome.
It's the script. I actually recently talked with a guy who worked on Monsters, Inc., one of my cold calls.
That's fun.
And I'm really hoping to get him on because this is Monsters, Inc., man.
I love Monsters, Inc. I've always loved Pixar and the films that they make.
Right? I know. I know.
They're just the right amount of, I'm going to make you cry like you've never cried before, but also like your inner child just loves them,
Is Toy Story Pixar?
Yeah.
Toy Story. Yeah, Toy Story is bad. I mean, it's sad, but like in like a wholesome way.
Pixar does this thing. They have a formula, and it's brilliant because they will rip your heart out, show it to you, and you still love them for it.
That's a good. That's a good way of putting it. Actually, that is a very good way of putting it. Oh my gosh, especially when Andy, gives away his toys to Bonnie, and they play with the toys together.
It's such core primal experiences that we've all had. I think that's the thing with filmmaking in general is that when you tell stories, you want to tell stories that everybody can relate to, right? So you want to have those base primal emotions that you can pull on, but not be so heavy-handed that that's all you do. So, we've all had that experience of giving up something because we've known we've outgrown it, or because we know we need to move on. It doesn't make it any more fun just because we understand it, but when we get to re-experience it through Andy's eyes, or get to experience experience it even through Boo's eyes when she realizes that the monsters aren't going to come with her now. She's got to grow up a bit. Mm-hmm. I think all those experiences, again, that's what makes filmmaking so great. That's why we got into this industry, to tell those stories.
Right.
I think sometimes a lot of us, we all forget, we chase the money and we're trying to pay our mortgages and buy food and all that other stuff. But, we're here because ultimately we want to connect with people on a very human, emotional level,
Right. Yeah. So speaking of that, we're going to switch over to Enigma, the film that you worked on, with your brother.
Yes.
What was the, what's the word?
Impetus.
What was the reasoning? What was the inspiration for that?
Enigma was, man, that turned into a project that I think I want to say I thought I knew what we were getting into when we did it, and became something that was so much bigger and we had so much fun with. But my brother is an animator, or was an animator. Now he's up at ILM. He's my A-list brother. He was nominated for an Academy Award for The Revenant. He's absolutely brilliant. Probably one of the most creative people I've ever had the privilege of meeting. He and I had finished up film school. He had just finished up art school, and he was like, "Hey, we should do something together. We could direct as the Shumway brothers."
Yeah,
and we're like, got a good ring to it, man. I like it. And so we started talking about, what do we want to do, and we started writing this story about a prison transfer gone wrong, and and then it was like, oh, what if it's all told through we're reliving like what happened and everything there. So we started kind of putting this all together. And my brother was like, well, okay, well, we have to have visual effects. Got to have a certain number of visual effects because that's what he wanted to do to build up his career and everything. And I wanted to, you know, anything to direct and produce. So we were like, yeah, this is perfect. So we started writing, and we ended up writing this show. Looking back on it, I love what we did with it at the time, and I wish I had the experiences I have now to add more to it. Because you know, the film turned out as I think as good as we could make it with the experiences we had. I think now, if we were to redo it, I think we could really make it even better. But I'm so proud of what we did, the crew that we put together, and how we made that movie. Right. Because if we had any idea how big of a chunk we were biting, that film has something like 900 visual effect shots in it.
Oh, wow.
And only about 300 of them are truly visible. You know, it's easy to know a visual effect shot when it's a spaceship flying across the way. When it's just subtle set extensions, or we're, you know, deleting, you know, painting out wires and things like that. And
that's what I was just thinking. Yeah.
You know, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, so that'll start as that is like, how many visual effects we can do? What kind of story do we want to tell? And how can we work together? So we were heavily inspired by like Battlestar Galactica at the time that had just been re-released. And so some of our camera work is kind of heavily influenced by that. Yeah. You know, we were lucky enough that, you know, at the time people still kind of did things, you know, for free starting up. I mean, I guess we're still doing it now, but I feel like the times have changed. People don't want to kind of do that kind of thing anymore, where you just get a good group of people together and go out and do it, you know. But we had a great makeup artist that we met, and, you know, we said, hey, we're kind of thinking about doing this, and we're doing live casts and all this for weeks before, and getting Edelin all made up, and turning Iris, who is our little blonde cheerleader, into this death machine alien, which was awesome. You know, and, you know, I worked with a stunt coordinator at the time. You might have heard of him. His name's Ki Kwan.
Yes, I have.
He was his career has resurged huge right now, and he's absolutely brilliant. I went to school with him, and he at the time was getting into doing stunt coordination. He was getting Chinese stunt coordinators over here in the States to get him into mainstream film and all this stuff. But he himself was, you know, as a martial artist and things. So he worked with us to choreograph a bunch of the fight scenes in there. Which was great, you know. And I have a background in martial arts myself, but like he is absolutely brilliant, and he understands the movie side of martial arts and how you make it look really good. And so we had all our fight scenes put together because we had this brilliant guy there. We had a brilliant makeup artist, and then we were looking for music, and Jermaine Stiegel, who is I don't know if we call him up and coming still as much as he's already landed and is now becoming a very established composer. Coming to America Too was one of the big movies I remember he did, and I watched it. And I was just so excited that, you know, I know the guy did the music on this, but he agreed to do the music for us. And by the time we got our team done, you know, we just had so many great people in so many different, you know, positions. But it was a very fun film to make. Yeah.
I mean, especially since, like, I mean, you and your brother just kind of did it all, you know? I mean, you started it all. Well, like, it was your project.
We started it. Yeah. But filmmaking is a family affair. I mean, if you're not working, I mean, yes, people can go out there and be auteurs and they do everything and all that stuff, but there's nothing better than working with a team and saying, okay, you're our DP. You tell us what's going to be the best shot here. Yeah. Bring your creativity and make that movie. You know, and letting each person kind of own their department. Yeah. Yes, we have a grand vision, but as a director, I feel it's you're guiding everybody to keep everybody going down the same vision, but you're not trying to restrict them from bringing their creativities. Otherwise, you know, if you could do it yourself, just do it all yourself. You know, if that's really what you want, you know, don't try to force somebody else to do your thing, but, you know, really accept what their vision is. Our editor on that is, you know, I love telling my editor, okay, great, here's all the footage, get me a cut, and then we'll start talking about it. Because there's no reason to try to to be in the edit room as a director until there's something, already kind of done. And then you start collaborating.
Right.
And it is collaboration. It's never just I'm guiding them to do what they do. It's we're going to work together. So with Enigma, it was a lot of that. We were all relatively fresh out of film school, working in this soundstage, which was really neat to be a part of. They have a standing spaceship set. That was kind of what we were there working on another friend's film, and there was another second soundstage. We were on just the big green cyc that was there, and the other stage, we were like, "What's over there?" And they're like, "Spaceship set," and we're like, "Spaceship set, you say?"
Let's take a look.
So yeah, we all run over there, and we all become 4-year-olds running around pretending like we're driving the ship and everything. And that's actually the moment my brother and I went, "We can write something for this." Yeah, we could totally do this. And so we did. And, my parents flew out. My mom was the costumer. My dad was set construction.
Okay.
You were talking about cold calls, cold calling people. I cold called effects people, not visual effects, but like physical effects. We wanted some fire and sparks and things, explosions.
Right.
And I called up this one studio. I said, "Hi, I'm doing this film. I'm looking for somebody. I need somebody to do these effects." And I'll never forget this girl. She goes, "Oh, honey, we don't do films your size." And I was like, "Oh, well, that was fun." She goes, "You know what? Let me float it out in the shop and see if anybody's interested." And so
oh my gosh.
I get a call from Wayne Beachcamp, and he calls up and he's like, "You Jason?" "Yeah." "You need an effects guy?" And in my mind, I'm thinking like, "Oh, like tell me something about you. Are you even qualified? Or something like that." And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, so what have you done?" And he's like, "I've done a few things." And he tells me, he goes, I forget which film it was, but it was some like one of those Friday the 13th Jason films, I think, like the one where he's in space or something like that. It's like crazy film. But it was the film that had the record for using the most propane for fire effects.
Interesting.
Massive effects or hard effect films. Like it was crazy. When I looked him up, I realized like this guy is like A-list, huge name. And I was like, holy crap. Like he called me. This is the coolest thing ever. I was very excited to get him on, and he came in and he did his thing. He just basically I got a whole truckload of stuff left over from the last film, so he just used what he had. We and did I don't remember at all what the budget ended up being on that, but it was like next to nothing for what we got. It was next to nothing.
Right.
And so we got all this neat stuff, and it was really neat having somebody with that much experience on set, especially when we were so young and beginning. But like I said, my dad built, there's a boardroom set at the beginning. My dad built that whole thing.
Oh, no way.
And he was sitting there chatting with Wayne, and Wayne told him, he goes, I've been on a lot of sets like this. I do a lot of things. I've never been on one quite as professional as this one's running. And that stuck with me for a while. And I thought, man, that's really neat that somebody who really knows what they're doing thinks that I'm running a professional set. Yeah. Because I think when we do these films, sometimes we forget professionalism really is an important part of it. And it was to me, that was a huge compliment. So, but yeah, Enigma was quite the adventure. And when we got done and we finished shooting it in 2004, I think, and we were like, okay, great. In a year, we'll be done with it and have it out in the world. We released it in 2009. Because that's how long the visual effects take when you've got a crew of just a handful. I mean, we reached out to a lot of people over the internet and had people all over the world working on this. Rhythm and Hues was an effects company back in the day. They're unfortunately no longer around, but they had an India studio. And they needed to train their people on how to do rotoscope and stuff. And so we were able to give them a bunch of scenes where we had green screen for the space outside. Yeah. Which why we did, my brother will always tell us why we had the camera facing out the window instead of facing in from the window would have saved us months and months and months of effects work. Hey. But, we didn't know any better at the time. Yeah. And I'm kind of glad we didn't, because I think it forced us into something that ended up being really cool. Yeah. And then when we got out into the world with it, it really took the film festival thing by storm. I mean, we unfortunately didn't get into some of the really big festivals or anything, but we got into like 36 festivals.
I mean, no, that's I would call that a huge success.
You know, we had great, and we won Best Short at the Orlando Film Festival. We won Best Science Fiction Feature at a couple because we were 42 minutes long. Technically, anything over 40 minutes is considered a feature by the Academy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So yeah, so we sometimes were in the feature category. A lot of times we're in the shorts category. Almost unanimously, all of the festival directors would come to us and say, "We hate you." We're like,
right, no.
What? You hate us? Why? Well, you made a 42-minute film. Our shorts blocks are only 60 minutes long. That means I can put you and maybe 2 other films into a block.
Yeah.
You're too long for a short.
Yeah.
But we couldn't pass on it because it's amazing. Like we don't see effects films like this, or back in 2009, you don't see effects films like this on the film film festival circuit. So it was like we're not going to pass on it, but at the same time, you made programming absolute pain in the butt. So
that's funny.
Even Orlando, where we won the best short, they said the same thing. They were like, we got programmed with one other short. Which is really funny. It was this, I think the film was called 222. And it was this vampire short. It was very, very cool. And the filmmakers who make it, I kept up with them for years afterwards. But their short was very, very scary, very kind of hardcore. It had some nudity in it and stuff like that. So at our screenings, it was interesting because a lot of people who'd come to see Enigma and were younger kids, and then that movie came on, they were just like,
"What's going on?"
Yeah. So then we had the second round of screenings. They kind of did hey for kids in this.
Yeah.
And I felt awful because like a whole bunch of people left after our film because the kids and stuff. And I was like, no, that's not how this is supposed to go.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like it wasn't the greatest combination. But at the same time, I also think they got a lot of people who came to their screening because after we won the award, they did another screening of a lot of the winners. And oh my God, that theater was just packed. People were sitting in the stairways between the seats and everything. I mean, I'd never seen so many people. It was such a neat experience,
Yeah, to see that your project is really appreciated is... I mean, physically too, like physically seeing people is probably really unique. Well,
it got out. We ended up getting it distributed. I was on Amazon for a while.
Oh, wow.
On Amazon Prime. That experience is what taught me what it is to be a filmmaker. Because you put something out into the public that you've worked so hard on that you just want to entertain people with. And then people start watching it. And then they start having thoughts about it. And not all of the thoughts are good thoughts.
People have lots of thoughts.
I want to say Enigma, at last I looked, had like 500 or 600 reviews on Amazon. And it's really fun. If you look at the 5-star scale, we have like a whole bunch of 5s, then a bunch of 4s, or sorry, a few 5s, a whole bunch more 4s, and then a bunch of 3s, and then some 2s and some 1s. And it's like, it's insane, the variety. Like people either really like it or they absolutely hate it.
That's like everything. Some people are just haters.
Oh, sorry, my phone's interrupting the conversation here. So.
Some people are just haters,
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the comments that I will always stick with me, and I kind of keep this one in my back pocket because it's so ridiculous. They said, "I hope these filmmakers die so I never have to see another one of their films." They wish for my death because I put a science fiction film out in the world and they didn't like it.
Yeah, I recently, not recently, it's been a few weeks, I kind of recently posted a 7-minute TikTok video that got 4 million views, and I've got sent death threats as well.
Yeah, it's interesting what people expect from their entertainment.
I know. It's like if you don't want to watch, like, I mean, like I understand, leaving reviews if you have an actually no, you know what, I'm not a reviewer, to be honest. Like I don't leave physical reviews on things. I'm more of an enjoyer. Like if I enjoy something, I'll be like, yay. If I don't really enjoy something, I'll just be like, okay, won't look at that again, not really, doesn't matter, and move on. But some people are like,
they have to get out there and express their displeasure with the world. But I will say this, it teaches you to have a thick skin. And if you're going to be a creative in this world and you're going to put something out in the world, you got to accept the fact that people are going to come in and tell you that you are one of the most horrible people in the world for just putting this out in that creative space.
That's very odd.
When it started, I remember reading some of these and it kind of hit. It hit hard hearing somebody tell me that all this work that we did and how proud of it we were was completely misplaced and I should be ashamed and hide my face for even thinking of making this show. But then there are the people that write, the good things. They're like, there was one guy who basically wrote, it's like, look, it may not be Transformers, but these guys put together a great project for probably what it costs just to buy coffee for the set of Transformers, and and it's out there in the world. And like how many other people have you done that? Have you
exactly
that kind of thing? It's like so yeah, you're never going to please everybody. How's the old thing go? You can please some of the people all of the time, all of the people some of the times, but never all of the people all of the time. And, I think it was like P.T. Barnum or something said that back in the day. But it's very true. It's like you got to not focus on the negative and really look at the people who are enjoying your stuff, but also don't discount the criticism, because criticism is where you're going to find the places where you need to improve or where you can improve and how you're going to make yourself better. If all you're looking at is just the good stuff, then you're kind of fooling yourself. There's always room for improvement.
Right.
There's always ways you can change, and maybe you can win some of those people over. We took the strategy of, like, when people would give us bad reviews, we'd just say, "Sorry, it wasn't your film.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for watching anyway."
Right.
Which some people, they changed their reviews, which I didn't want that. Their review was their review. I want that to stick. The ones that made what I found funny were the ones who were like, "How dare you thank me for my review?" It's like they got more mad.
Oh.
We did have one guy, though, that he didn't understand a part of the film. We tried to explain it to him, and then he got upset, and we kind of went back and forth. And every time we would say something, then he would come back with, "No, you guys are this, and awful filmmaker," and just kind of kept beating on us. But with the way the algorithms work on Amazon, that showed that there was a lot of engagement going on with the film.
Yeah.
And suddenly we would end up on, like, the advertising. Like, they would be like, popular films this week, and then suddenly Enigma's one of them. And that next month we got like 4.5 million views or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
Which was, like at the time, Amazon was paying like, it was like half a penny or something per view. But either way, it's like it turned into some decent money, and we were able to pay back some of the bills on it and do some things and fund out some other shorts. I made another short called A Brief Wait, and a lot of that was the money that Enigma brought us allowed me to do another film, and that one's up on YouTube right now, and it was actually, I think, one of the better films I've been able to make. I got to work with some really brilliant actors on that, and that was kind of the whole point, of just kind of continuing the craft and improving what I can do. But anyway, so yeah, Enigma got out there and won an award at every single festival it went to.
Oh.
Even one, we went to the Gig Harbor Film Festival, and we didn't win an award, but they had a lot of problems with our screening. Like, it was kind of this haze of green over the entire film. It was like, okay, that was just weird. And we're like, okay, it sucked, but it is what it is. We still had a great time at the festival. The people were really neat, and the other filmmakers were great, and they were very apologetic. But when it came to the award ceremony, like, we didn't win any awards. It was one of the first festivals we didn't actually win something at. And then suddenly they're like, and the Filmmaker Spirit Award we're adding. It wasn't even on the thing, and they gave it to me and my brother for with everything that had happened. That fact that we didn't freak out about it, that we just rolled with it, and we were, participated in the festival and had such a great time. So they bought these little, like, like number one filmmaker little trophy things. They're little plastic. It was so cute. I still have it sitting on my desk.
Really?
But it was such a funny thing, because we walked away and we're like, even the festivals that we lost at, we still won.
No, right? No, literally. That is so fun. Well, anyways, it's been fantastic chatting with you. It's been super duper fun. We covered a lot of cool points. I like how we also discussed just more like general filmmaking and everything. And I hope you had a good time. Thanks for coming on. Yeah,
everybody go out and find Bloomington and watch it.
Yeah,
Enigma's out there still, and A Brief Wait's on YouTube. Most of these, if you just search for the title with Shumway at the end, you can find all of them.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and comment your favorite moment below. Check out my social media pages at Currently Screaming with Ashlyn. If you'd like to be a guest on my show, please visit my website. Stay screaming.